On to the news. Last night, my colleague Holly Bailey and I published excerpts from video statements made by the 4 of the defendants in the Fulton case who have pleaded guilty. Was it a surprise to you that those videos got out? And also, it might not be a bad thing for you to explain to the public, what is a proffer statement?
So my team in the particular case that those got out, we had already filed to have a protective order where discovery in the case would not get out. So surprising, no. Disappointing, yes. In fact, today from here, I made sure I wasn't late for this event, but I was with my team making sure that an emergency motion got filed so that that motion we had already filed gets heard immediately, because I think I'm not happy that it was released and that you and your colleague got to do your story.
Can you say definitively to this audience and the internet audience that it was not your office that leaked those videos?
It was absolutely not my office. You know,
I just want to get that on the
open records request we got for that, and told
from
the reporter, yes, from you and every other outlet. No, we're not going to release information, which is why so long ago we filed that motion already, and now we're just asking that the judge rule on it, expedite it. And I would talk about that because that's a public record. It's stamp filed. You have a copy of it. I think it's already on Twitter.
We have a story online about it.
DA Fonnie Willis addressing the big story. Who leaked the video depositions and court filings in that case? We now know, and we'll talk about that this morning. Joe Manchin is saying what we already know, that he is strongly considering, in his words, a run for president. He said he will make that decision by the time that the primaries roll around, but he says that he is not in it. He won't be in it as a spoiler, he says. But he also says that he wants to do everything he can to keep Donald Trump out of office. We'll talk about Joe Manchin this morning and who's left in the GOP presidential race as Tim Scott bows out. And the Supreme Court has refused to hear the case of a Black man locked in solitary confinement for 3 straight years. No exercise, nothing. We'll talk about that as well. And Marilyn Mosley, the former Baltimore state's attorney, well, appears to be headed to prison as another trial, this time a mortgage fraud trial. Date for that has been set for January. And Kevin Hart is receiving a very high award, a very distinguished award. We'll talk about that this morning with Mr. Suspenders himself, Austin Cooper.
My brother, good morning. How are you, man?
What's going on out there in DC?
Always good to see you, man. Trying to hustle and make a living.
Yeah, he's always hustling. It's amazing. It's amazing he's in North America right now.
And stay out of trouble with you and Greer and Barrington. That's my, if I can stay out of trouble with the 3 of you, life is good. Life is good.
Nobody stays out of trouble with Barrington.
I know.
Get that. Listen, so Austin, we start this morning. We're going to start with Joe Manchin, the West Virginia senator who last week announced that he's not running for re-election, but said that he was going to continue to do everything he can to ensure democracy. Well, Senator Manchin has said that he will run for president if the country says that they need him. He says that he will make that decision perhaps by February, before the primaries. But he said every American should consider if they are in a position to help save the country. He said he first has explored a run, or whether there's an appetite among voters for a moderate candidate like him. He says, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure to mobilize that moderate, sensible, common sense middle. He says he suggested that if he can reinvigorate, and that's his word, the middle of the road constituency, that would play a major role in whether he would launch a White House bid. He says, I'm totally, absolutely scared to death that Donald Trump will become president again. I think we will lose democracy as we know it. Austin, Senator Manchin appears to be headed for an announcement soon.
If he was that concerned about Donald Trump being reelected, then he would not run. If he was that concerned about Donald Trump being reelected, he would fight to keep his seat in his own, in his own state. Joe Manchin has been running against President Joe Biden since the beginning of the president's term. So I'm not even remotely surprised. We already have a 1 or 2 vote margin, excuse me, in the United States Senate. Thankfully, we have the vice president who can come in when necessary and break a tie vote. But by not running, that seat in West Virginia is likely to go red. I'm not saying he didn't have an uphill battle in his state, but I don't think it was as uphill as he professes, because he's pretty red to me, and has been for some time. And by not running for re-election, he has all but assured that that state will flip to the red column in the Senate. Thereby, even if President Joe Biden is reelected, he may face in his second term a majority in the House, as well as a majority in the Senate.
Yeah, which means nothing gets done.
Which means nothing gets done, and they also will have the votes in both houses, right, to impeach him. They can impeach President Biden in the they can impeach President Biden in the House. They can do the trial and all of that, but it can require the Senate to also hold a trial and to ultimately decide. And that's what saved Donald Trump not once but twice. They had the majority in the Senate.
And Trump is also trying to use the Senate's what is it? If you're not the acquittal,
exactly,
the Senate's acquittal as a reason to have the charges against him, the criminal charges dropped against him.
So he can, I'm looking at what Gridge is putting in. He can color his hair or comb it back or comb it left, comb it right, whatever he's done differently. But if anybody,
like Ted Koppel.
Exactly. But if anybody talks about running against Joe Biden, you are indeed a spoiler. And that includes Robert Kennedy, and that includes any of the others, Cornel West, any of the others.
Oh boy, Corny West. They unreal. Why did he? We talked about that because Greer actually was the one who pointed it out. But what's with the color of the hair and like you said, combing it back, was putting on a new rug. What's with all that?
Trying to appear young, trying to appear more vibrant. As compared to President Biden. Look, I tell people it's a blessing to get older. It's a blessing to see gray. I don't have the problem, but I still consider it a blessing to be bald at 61 next Tuesday. So even if I did have hair like you, I would not. I would want the distinguished look, like you have. The salt and pepper.
Why'd you hesitate when you said like me?
I want for emphasis.
For emphasis, okay.
Like you, Stacey Brown, like you.
So Austin, speaking of candidates and a lot of people, I was going to say, speaking of Republican candidates, because we were talking about Manchin, a lot of people view him as a Republican anyway. Oh, okay. I see Greer's message there, Austin. You know what? Nonetheless, you know, Austin, you're the man. Republicans, the field for the GOP presidential nominations is narrowing now. We talked about Tim Scott after we finally he introduces his girlfriend. A moment later, he exits stage left. So it leaves, of course, Trump and DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, Vivek Ramaswamy, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, and finally former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, with left and the Republican field. It was like 100-person field in the beginning. Now you're down to the aforementioned, what, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Tim Scott, I mean, that was like grand opening, grand closing. I mean, who told Tim Scott that he stood a chance of being elected, you know, president of the United States? I mean, it takes a great ego to run to say, I'm going to run for president. I mean, you almost have to have a savior than thou, you know, mentality, that, you know, no one can do this job but me. But you also have to have, with that swagger, with that ego, you know, you got to have some appeal nationally.
Right.
And I just never saw it with Senator, you know, with Senator Scott. I'm looking at these folks here. Ramaswamy's a joke. He's a nut job. He's not going to get it. You know, Mike Pence, another grand opening, grand closing. I mean, again, why he decided to enter. You know, go boots DeSantis. I don't see him going anywhere.
Boots.
Chris Christie is you know, he's saying all the right things. But look, at the end of the day, you know, Nikki Haley. But at the end of the day, out of everybody on screen here, the only one who has the guts to really go after Donald Trump is former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and you know, he's just not going anywhere. And the reason he's not going anywhere is because Trump has got such a lock. I mean, he's beating everybody here by at least 35, 40 points.
Mike,
so everybody will, what did Mike say?
He said Tim Scott opened and closed quicker than Target stores open and close in the hood.
Exactly. There was nothing on the shelf. Yeah, so they just
nothing on the shelf.
Nothing on the shelf, meaning in his brain. It's just crazy.
Boy, the zingers are coming left and right here.
You know, he brought the white lady out, and she didn't seem, you know, comfortable. She had to look like, why am I here? And then you saw when she walked away, the kind of weird handoff.
It was like the Michael Jackson, Lisa Marie Presley.
Exactly. And like, come on.
But look, Power 96 says, I bet Tim Scott doesn't eat collard greens for Thanksgiving. He eats potato salad with raisins.
Exactly. Exactly.
But this comes from Power 96, who says that food prices are so expensive that Thanksgiving will be Taco Thursday for him. Terrible. Y'all are terrible this morning. So, Austin, you know, Nikki Haley is polling pretty good, though, right? She's been doing pretty good for herself.
Yeah, no, you know, I think out of everybody, you know, everybody on the list here, including, you know, the former candidates, Tim Scott and the vice president, but those remaining, if I don't even see Nikki Haley as standing a serious chance of beating the president.
Well, and
the former president.
Then remember, Trump says he's considering what's his name, Tucker Carlson, as his vice president.
Crazy. Yeah. Did you see those two idiots walking into Madison Square Garden last week?
I heard about it.
Now, interesting.
He got booed. Somebody threw him. Somebody threw Trump a middle finger at that event.
I saw. Yeah, there was a lady sitting behind him. She gave him like 2 middle fingers. I'm like, wow, that's okay. Okay. But, you know, interesting. If I can digress briefly, you and I are used to seeing, and Greer used to seeing presidential motorcades moving about town, and regardless of who is president, you can't help but be impressed when you see a presidential or vice presidential motorcade. I've seen it with Bush, Carter, you know, all of the presidents. But with Trump, the difference was the visceral reaction that men, women, teenagers, older people had when his motorcade went by. I mean, giving them the finger, grabbing their private parts. I mean, it was something to see.
It is interesting because no previous president has ever gotten the sort of reaction that he's gotten, the type of, like you said, the vitriol and it's always something about of course he has people who just absolutely worships him, but then I mean he just elicits such he's so controversial. And he's either loved by his following or hated by others who, and it used to be that if you just didn't agree with the president's policies, that was you didn't hate the president, right? You respected the position. This guy, it's a whole new ball game.
And you have so many people in not only the House, but the Senate trying to be like him with his disrespectful, disgusting, behavior in public and private. You have the senator, standing up and challenging a witness in a Senate hearing.
A Teamsters guy to a fight.
Yes. And
during a hearing.
Yeah. And, I can't fight. So I'm not going to challenge anybody to fight. But who I want to challenge to a fight is a Teamster. Because I'm like, they still can't find what Jimmy Hoffa is. So the last person I'm going to challenge to a fight is anybody associated with the Teamster. But seriously, you have a Republican member of the Senate standing up and challenging a witness to a fight.
Yes.
Right there. And
Senator Sanders had to
say, you are a member of the United States Senate. What are you doing?
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big
Oh,
guy.
oh, stop it.
Is that your solution?
Look at this.
Oh,
Look at this.
No, sit down.
Look
Sit
at
down.
this.
You're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond?
Look
Hold
at
it.
this.
Hold it. If
Hold
we
on.
can't,
This
no,
is
I have the
what
mic.
he said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what he
it.
said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing. God knows the American people have enough of contempt for Congress. Let's not
I don't
make
like
it worse.
thugs and
You-
bullies.
You have,
And that's
you
what-
have
I don't
the
like
mic.
you because you
Hold
just
it.
described yourself.
Hold it. You have the mic.
Yeah.
You have time.
All right.
Make your
You
statement.
never
Then
saw
let's
this
do this
before.
because I did challenge you and I accepted your challenge, and you went quiet.
No, I didn't go quiet. I was.
Hold on.
No,
You
hold on.
challenged me to a cage match,
no,
acting
no,
like a
sir.
12-year-old schoolyard
Hold it.
bully.
Excuse
Sir,
me.
hold on.
Hold it. No, excuse me.
I will say exactly.
Senator
what you
Mullen,
said.
I have the mic. You have questions on any economic issues, anything to say, go for it. We're not here to talk about physical abuse.
You brought.
We're not
him
talking
in.
about, of course I
And,
did.
and let me show you his hearing because I want to expose this thug to who he is. In
Could you not point to
2013
me? That's disrespectful.
I don't care about respecting you at all. I
don't
respect people that
respect you at all.
respect. So
All right, hold it.
let me
Hold it.
Oh my God. And
and you've got the former speaker elbowing people who
Right.
voted
I was gonna say
to
that
oust him,
same day.
in the kidney. I mean, and he denies it, but the reporter who was there said, "Yeah, he did it."
and not only that, who was the congressman he elbowed in the ribs, the kidneys. He chased after him. It's just, this is what, and so these are the people. This is what you get now in Congress and in the Senate. This is what you get among leadership.
Wannabe Trumpsters. Wannabe Trumpsters.
And there is this. Yeah, it was Tim Burchett. That's what, of Tennessee.
Yeah.
So listen, and real quick, I was going to mention, Chris Christie, just one of the rare ones that just continue to go after Trump. Chris Christie is the opposite of, and it's not to give him any real props, but he's the opposite of what we saw with Rubio and Cruz. Christie is upset still because Trump has relentlessly talked about his weight and stuff like that. So he's like unforgiving now. He's like, and I don't blame him on that. I mean, he's just relentless against Trump now too. But at least he has the guts to fight back.
But think about it, Stacy. You just referenced politics, how it used to be.
Hmm.
If a Republican was in office, you may not like his policies, but you can at least have that basic respect that he's the president of the United States and he's Republican, I'm Democrat, so we're going to have our policy differences. That's how I see, Chris Christie. If
Hmm.
Chris Christie gets, somehow gets elected, I'm not concerned about democracy, American democracy going down the drain. If Nikki Haley gets elected, I'm not concerned about democracy going. I mean, we'll have a
Right.
policy different than foreign policy, domestic, but those two, DeSantis, I'm concerned about because
Hmm.
he's a smarter, crazier
Trump.
Donald Trump. But you have presidents of different parties, but no president other than Trump, Democrat or Republican, has ever consciously and vocally and repeatedly said that I'm all about destroying American democracy. I'm going after my political opponents if I get back in office.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Shoot people in the streets, et cetera, et cetera. Austin, and another, I guess Supreme Court is now, I was gonna say in other political news, the Supreme Court certainly is as political as it's ever been. But they have refused to grant the Here case with a black man who had been in solitary confinement for 3 years. The judgment contradicts a 1979 decision by former Justice Anthony Kennedy, then an appeals court judge, who wrote that frequent outdoor exercise is critical to inmates' well-being. But still, the court refused to hear the case. This man spent 3 years in solitary confinement in an Illinois correctional facility with no access to the outside or opportunity to exercise. This guy has filed petition after petition. He's been diagnosed with several mental disorders, including severe depression, which no surprise there, right? Bipolar disorder and other things. And his lawyers have taken the case, gotten this thing as far as they can go, which is to the Supreme Court, and they rejected it. His motion, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sonia Sotomayor, and Alina Kagan were the ones who was for this guy. They dissented from the ruling there by the other majority. They calling it an indisputable legal error. This guy was incarcerated at Pontiac Correctional Center in 2007 for a conviction that was linked to a home invasion and assault. They revoked his yard privileges or opportunity to exercise outside beginning in 2013. And due to so-called countless incidents of prison infractions, he was barred from the yard and put in solitary. And he did 2-year stretch in solitary. All told, he did 3 years in solitary, but 2 straight years in solitary confinement. And the Supreme Court said, so what?
Yeah, and I'm not surprised that of the three associate justices who dissented
Hmm.
here, nor am I surprised on which side Uncle Clarence Thomas came down on with this case. If it's anything involving, improving the lives of Black men or women, Black girls or Black boys, then you can rest assured that Uncle Thomas is going to side with the majority. I mean, how do you under any circumstances justify this kind of treatment to any human being? I mean, to put someone in solitary confinement with no interaction with anybody else, exactly what solitary confinement, how you define that.
Hmm.
It's just it's absolutely reprehensible. And if he does, I don't know how long he's in for, or if he's out. But how? I mean, how was that supposed to rehabilitate him? How was that supposed to make him a better person? I mean, part of the reason why you put people in prison, yeah, to punish them for wrongdoing, but also you hope
Mostly.
to, rehabilitate at
Yeah.
least those who can be rehabilitated. So if this brother was, before being put in solitary confinement, in a position to be rehabilitated, I'm not saying that he can't, but you've made it that much more difficult. Whatever mental issues that he had going on before has quadrupled
Well, think
because of
about
this
it.
treatment.
And Greer brings this up, but think about it too. 3 years in confinement, solitary
Yes, good
confinement.
point, Greer. Yep.
Yeah. What kind of person are you when it is time for him to go home? What kind of
Hmm.
person are you releasing into society?
Hmm.
You're releasing somebody who's now he's been through it all, who's angry.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Please,
Absolutely.
anything goes at that point. This guy,
Yep.
he
Yep.
could care less. What else can you do to him?
And think about how, I'll speak for myself and others, but how we in general as a public were impacted by a, different form of solitary confinement, but certainly confinement during the pandemic. Think
Mhm.
about how that impacted our well-being,
Yeah, yeah. It's all
and
the mental health
much less to be
aspect.
in, yeah, exactly, much less to be in prison like it. But great point, Greer. I mean, what kind of person
Hmm.
are we releasing?
Well, a lawyer for a former elections director charged alongside former President Donald Trump over efforts to overturn Georgia's 2020 election said he released videos of prosecutors' interviews with some of their co-defendants. He did it because he thought they helped his client and the
I
public had
believe
the
that an
right to
order
see
is
them.
necessary, that this is one of the biggest cases the country has had, and that transparency is very important. Since I've been working with her for the last 2 years, she has always said that she wanted to be 100% transparent. Uh, and that is why we are opposed to having any kind of regulations on what we can expose and what we can't. But with that in mind, we will adhere to any court order that the court does, and we'll do so with diligence. Um,
Well, so that's the voice of Jonathan Miller, the attorney for Misty Hampton. It was Jonathan Miller who released this or leaked this information. We saw online, and it was first ABC News and CNN. And David Youngblood said he hurry up and admitted it because he knew he was about to become famous with the judge. But there was first what's his name, Harrison Floyd, the black, the one, well, there's two black defendants, but the black man defended the Blacks for Trump. His lawyer first took credit for releasing it and then called it a typo, that
Mhm.
it wasn't him. But
How can that be a typo?
right,
I
right.
mean, I released the tape. Oops. What the hell were you trying to say?
What were you trying to say? Right. But the fact is that what they released, it was really, first they tried to, say that, and Fonnie Willis's team released
I got
it.
to be honest with you. I mean, first of all, this lawyer should be. I mean, I'm curious to see, how the judge, what he's
Right.
going to do. How he's going to reprimand this defense attorney for a clear violation. So that that's
But
a
it's interesting, Austin, that it's attorneys here that that have come to light as the bad guys, because the four people who have already pleaded include attorneys Sidney Powell, Kenneth Chesborough or Chesborough or whatever his name is, and Jenna Ellis, right? These were attorneys. These are attorneys
Mhm.
who have, in that case, they admitted to wrongdoing, right, in this election fraud. And now you got this other attorney admitting to leaking to the public these what they call proffers.
Yeah. So you got these four, lawyers. I'm sure I forgot where they went to law school, but four, I guess, fairly successful lawyers within their own rights who get in trouble with Trump and need lawyers themselves. Each of them will likely be disbarred at a minimum, and no longer able to practice. And now you have a lawyer for one of the defendants who probably needs a lawyer himself.
And that's the thing. And that's been a running factual joke around the Trump camp, is that if you're a lawyer for Trump, you're definitely at some point going to need
a lawyer yourself. And so, so if you sign up to be the former president's lawyer, just set aside some money, because
Right.
at some point,
whatever
he's
he's
going to get
paying
me caught up
you,
in something. Yeah. Whatever he's paying or not paying.
right?
But,
You better set aside for your own lawyer.
but honestly, when I first heard about this yesterday or the day before, my first reaction was, I sure hope it wasn't someone in
Yes, the
Fonnie
district
Willis's
attorney.
office
Yeah.
who released this, because you do have some black supporters of
Well,
Donald Trump all
I-
over, and
yeah.
especially in Georgia.
I thought too, Austin, that it's probably somebody in her office, and this is going to lead to the charges being a mistrial anyway, at the least a mistrial, if not outright dismissal. But it turns out is, again, the Keystone cops over there.
Yeah, but I was disappointed in that, to see in that video that Greer showed earlier, where Fonnie Willis said that this case will go well into 2024 and likely into early 2025.
Angela Connolly says, MAGA, make attorneys get attorneys.
That's right. Angela's right.
Listen, so speaking of attorneys, Austin, Marilyn Mosby, the trial for the second set of charges against her will begin in January. According to court documents, the former Baltimore City's state's attorney will go to trial for mortgage fraud on January 18th. Jury selection will begin on January 16th. Last week, of course, a jury found her guilty of 2 counts of perjury, and federal prosecutors said Mosby had lied about suffering a financial hardship when she indicated as much while withdrawing money from her city retirement account without paying a penalty. Through the CARES Act, Congress authorized people who suffered pandemic-related financial hardships. They were allowed to withdraw money without paying a penalty. But according to the original indictment, she is accused of failing to disclose the fact that she had a $45,000 federal tax lien on her home in Baltimore that she shared with her soon-to-be ex-husband, Nick Mosby, when she purchased the homes in Florida. Nick faced a barrage of questions about the tax lien, and then despite saying he had the issue taken care of in 2020, the lien wasn't satisfied until January of 2021. She purchased a home in Kissimmee, Florida in September of 2020 for $545,000, and then she sold the home for $696,000, which put the profit at $151,000. But she said it was a lot less, and she used the money to buy a second vacation home. She's going to jail.
Yeah, and this young sister, I mean, just do the right thing. It is
it just appears, this, when you talk about witch hunts and stuff like this, appears to be that. It just appears to be that they because she went after those cops. Come on. And she went against the grain, and this is payback.
No, and I don't disagree with that, but all the more reason why, when all the more reason that it was important for her to get or to keep her house in order.
Right. I agree.
Her personal finances, because there was a target on her back when she was trying these cases, and there will always be a target on. Well, there's no longer a need, because it appears that she's going to go to prison. So they have succeeded. But when, we in particular are in these positions, when you're in the public eye, when you know that you're going to have these types of enemies, you've got to have your own affairs in order. So I do agree that it was a witch hunt, but I also hold her responsible
Responsible in
because
that
she
sense,
really
yeah.
put herself in this position, and it's so unfortunate.
Yeah, and there you see she's with the NMPA's attorney, the A. Scott Bolden,
Oh,
who
really?
was
Okay. Okay.
yeah, he was at a fundraiser for Fonnie Willis last night with Dr. Chavis. They sent pictures.
Okay.
All I got was the T-shirt. Austin, I know we're gonna have to run, but one last item of note this morning: Kevin Hart has been chosen to receive the Kennedy Center's Mark Twain Prize for Lifetime Achievement in American Humor, capping a 3-decade career that has seen him rise from the open mics of Philadelphia to become one of his generation's most successful performers. He is just 44 years old, has accomplished so much, and all his films have grossed for a total of $4.23 billion in global revenue. Kevin Hart.
No, congratulations, Kevin. I am such a big fan of Kevin. I don't know what's funnier about Kevin, what he says or the expressions on his face when he says
Right.
it. The whole kind of moving of the hands and how he turns his head and looks at you, sideways in disbelief. I mean, he's no, it couldn't go to a better person.
And there's nothing more hilarious than seeing him and The Rock go at it.
Oh yeah. And I like how he's always got his self-depreciating humor
Yes.
about his height.
Listen, there's a certain candidate on the Republican side from Florida that wears lifts. So
That's true. That's true. Go boots.
Austin Cooper, the one and only, suspenders and all. We appreciate no hair and all, and the beard. No, thanks so much.
Appreciate you, brother.
But for joining us.
We better get off the air.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow, guys.